Well, good morning, and thank you for coming out early this morning. We're here today to announce our support and introduction of Senate Concurrent Resolution 8, of which we'll be able to give sponsored testimony today in the Senate Environmental and Natural Resources Committee. First of all, I'd like to thank my distinguished colleague, Senator Bob Gibbs, for being joint co-sponsor of SCR 8. I also want to acknowledge such groups as the Ohio Farm Bureau, Soybean Council, Soybean Association, the Ohio Corn Growers Association, and other individuals for joining us today in support of this important resolution. If you have a chance to go downstairs in the map room and look at the farm display, you will see some interesting information. Amongst the information is the fact that 1 out of every 7 jobs in Ohio is related to agriculture, either inside the industry or in support of the industry. Senate Concurrent Resolution urges the EPA not to implement new regulations overseeing greenhouse gas emissions from livestock and imposing fees on livestock producers, and urges Congress to pass Federal Senate Bill 527, legislation introduced by Senator Thune and Senator Chuck Schumer that would prevent the government from imposing an onerous cow tax or pig tax on farmers and ranchers across the country. The federal bipartisan legislation has been co-sponsored by 8 other senators since it was introduced earlier this month. It is following a ruling by the Supreme Court that the EPA discussed regulating greenhouse gases. I believe everybody understood those gases to be industrial gases and not gases produced by livestock. And in fact, I would submit that before we should put a tax on gas produced by cows and pigs, we would have to impose a tax on those who use Taco Bell. This recent action by the EPA is yet another step down a slippery slope that can result in an unnecessary and burdensome tax on livestock operations in Ohio. I've talked with a number of dairy and livestock producers in Ohio, and particularly in my district, who have said that this tax would be extremely detrimental to the livestock industry. The Clean Air Act was written to curb pollution from smokestacks, not to regulate the dairy, livestock, and pork agricultural community. Times are tough for families in Ohio and throughout our country, and that they're tough for our farmers. The very idea of imposing a cow and pig tax on our farmers and adding more cost to them and to the consumers is absurd. Agriculture is one of the leading industries in Ohio. Coping with regulations is one of the biggest burdens we place on small businesses and our small farms, and we need to say to Congress, enough is enough. It's in this time of economic uncertainty, new taxes and fees are the last thing that government should be imposing on our nation's small businesses, especially our farmers and ranchers on whom so many of us depend. Moreover, this fee will simply be more costly to our consumers here in Ohio. This morning, Senator Gibbs and I will give sponsored testimony on SCR 8. We look forward to the support of the agricultural community in that regard, and we have several folks here from the agricultural community who will be like to recognize. We have Adam Sharp from Ohio Farm Bureau, Scott Higgins, President of Ohio Livestock Association, Todd Stickley from the Ohio Pork Producers, Jamie Butts from the Soybean Association, and Natalie Maynard of Ohio Corn Growers Association. And I see Beth Vanderquay from the Ohio Farm Bureau, who I think I might know from past life. So we thank you all for being up here this morning. It's my pleasure to introduce my co-sponsor, Senator Bob Gibbs.
Thanks, Senator Grendell. I want to thank everybody for coming today. This seems like it's almost a silly issue, but it's not. It's really an important issue. And we think that if this tax was to be implemented on the livestock and dairy producers in Ohio and around the country, this will have a devastating effect on them. And it'll also have a devastating effect on grain producers, because livestock production is their number one customer. And then you think of what happens in the agricultural supply sector and the processing sector, this would be a devastating tax. And I want to just mention specifically, since I'm a former hog producer, I raised hogs for over 30 years, that under this proposal, the American Farm Bureau estimates that the tax per hog basis will be $22 a head. And if we made $22 a head in any given year, that would have been a great year. And right now, in the hog industry and the livestock sector in general, it's challenging times there to make money. I know a lot of producers over the years develop relationships with packers to try to limit the risk in packer contracts, and now we're seeing packers pulling back from those contracts because the numbers just don't work. We got the industry losing tons of money right now, and if you add this tax, this per head tax, it would just be disastrous. And I did a little figuring. I used the 2007 Ohio Ag statistics, and I took the gross revenue by dairy producers and livestock producers here in the state of Ohio. It comes out in 2007 just over $1.8 billion. And if you figure the tax, as American Farm Bureau estimates, $175 per dairy cow, $87.50 per beef cow, and $22 per hog. That comes in, and I also factored in for sheep production in Ohio here. It factors in over $202 million tax for 2007. So if you divide that into the $1.8 billion in gross receipts, that would be the equivalent of an 11% gross receipts tax. That would be devastating to the industry and would just tear the industry apart, and the effects that would snowball down through the rest of the ag economy in rural Ohio, rural America. Would have devastating effects, there would be job losses, and this is not the time to even think about raising taxes, let alone an initiative to do something that is just so, it's just silliness. And as Senator Grendell said, the purpose of the Clean Air Act under Title V was to clean up our air from the smokestack type industries, which we've come a long way since the 70s when the EPA was created and the Clean Air Act was enacted. And this is definitely what we call that name, the name of just moving to other areas. Well, absurd, but unintended consequences, but there was a term we used to use too, mission creep, that's it, mission creep. This is definitely mission creep, part of the EPA. And